hope you've been saving those keys because it is Mythic Week, baby. New Mythics for you, new Mythics for me. Maybe. Let's go check them out. But before we get to the Mythics, of course, we get to talk about everything else. So we've got in the event keys, it is White Helm, the holy land of PvP-ness. PV? Alright, I'm just gonna leave that in. Of PvP-ness. That's a thing. So in this kingdom, we've got ourselves basically no one super crazy, but some decent people. So Guard's avatar can be used for scaling events in the end game. So if you give him lots of armor, he'll do lots of damage. That's kind of fun. So feel free to try and open up event keys to snag him if you so choose. Probably wouldn't recommend it. In Holy Saint Astra, we've got someone who just buffs people like crazy. Also gives all humans 50% mana start. Not the worst troop on the planet. We've also got Mercy. Mercy is the best. Make sure you get yourself a Mercy. And beyond all of that, we've got Sister Superior, who's just kind of like this super useful PvP cleanser person since she cleanses everyone and then gains an extra turn. Starts with full mana, and if you happen to be fighting Daemon types or undead people, they also get stunned and dispelled. So fun. So that's what's in your White Helm event keys. Personally, I wouldn't really go chasing Guard's Avatar or Holy Saint Astra. I don't really prefer them all too much. However, Mercy and the Sister Superior are super amazing. So make sure you jump in and grab those if that's kind of your bag. But we got ourselves a Tower of Doom. Tower of Doom week! And it's yellow, so make sure you jump in the shop, get yourself this new weapon. It sucks. No, it's fine. These weapons are basically resigned to being only used in Guild Wars defense teams, since you can never really guarantee you're going to be fighting a bunch of yellow folks. However, that's out there. I recommend you get it up to tier 4 so you can get yourself the weapon. The team I'm going to be using looks like this. It's using a Shield of Urskaya with a Wrath, a Gimlet, and a Guard's Avatar, so I literally just told you Guard's Avatar is not that cool, but I'm using him for this event anyway, because he does really well with scaling armor. We're going to use the shield to give him tons of armor, and then we're going to smacky with these people, really just for mana generation for both of these, honestly. But you're just going to be able to blow everyone up with Guard's Avatar. However, I also did make all kinds of teams for you guys this week, since that seems to be what people like. So an alternate team you could use would look like this. It's a Meng with 2 Skull Converters and a Cleanser. So that's kind of fun for all you folks that have all the bells and whistles. This team is basically the same idea, only we've got a Mana Converter and we've got a Mana Generator with a Cleanser. With much easier to get troops. This only has 1 Legendary in it and Divine Ishbala. If you don't have Divine Ishbala, literally just put in any other Skull Converter. There's a crap ton of them that are yellow. So you could use Wrath, you could use Forest Guardian, you could use, Divine Ishbala, Wrath, I already said that, Quillen, those people. So feel free to chuck in any Skull Converter that's yellow that you have in this slot, and then just, use that team. That's kind of fun. And then for the low-level folks, we've got ourselves some Mana Converter, we've got ourselves a Barrier Maker, and then we've got ourselves another Mana Maker with a Meng. So use this to smash on through the event, if that's your bag. All of those team codes will be in the description. Since this is a Tower of Doom week, I'm going to pimp a little bit of Starlight Lemming stuff here. So make sure you check out Starlight Lemming's site. He did just post a brand new Tower of Doom tracker. You can use this within your guild if you're looking to figure out where all the different things are within the different rooms. This is going to be an extremely useful tool for guilds that are not very attuned at trying to track this kind of stuff. So it even generates codes that you could be putting in your guild chat if you guys like to do your guild chat thing. But this spreadsheet will be super helpful to try and get you guys through as efficiently as possible. So by all means, go in there, get it now. Get it right now. That's my guidance to you. In the Glory Shop, we've got ourselves Gravitas. Gravitas has some big old cojones, apparently. It's really not the best troop, though. So it's doing damage to an enemy, but then if they're undead or daemon, it drains all their mana and curses them. So this is kind of a theme with all the White Helm troops. They're basically super anti-undead and daemon, which is, I guess, fine. They're like holy warrior paladin type people. However, it's kind of like, you're never really going to use this, because realistically, if you're just trying to do damage to people, that's, fine. But this draining and cursing thing isn't super strong. So It's really hard to use these troops in any kind of meaningful capacity. It requires such a specific enemy type to fight against, which is not something you can really ever depend on. I wouldn't say these effects are like wildly crazy that it's super worth going crazy with this troop. They do have skull reduction, so that's kind of fun. But overall, I wouldn't say this troop's all that great. But we get all these arcane blades, so just get a bunch of them. I got mine to Mythic just for, you know, shites and gigs. That's what I did. So feel free to jump on in there and do that. As far as the Soulforge this time around, we got ourselves some of this. It's basically a lot of meh. It's Ketris. Ketris is cool. He super blams people. If you pump him with literally any stat at all, he's going to do tons and tons of damage. So Ketris is someone you can use in events as well as PvP. He's just basically the hardest single target nuke in the game, so that's kind of cool. Ketris is out there if you want him. As far as the other mythic that might be worth considering, I'd say Worldbreaker. Worldbreaker is pretty dang solid across the board. He's exploding the board, he's doing damage to everyone, he potentially just randomly stat pumps himself. So Worldbreaker, if you're looking for just a mythic that kinda does everything, Worldbreaker is super solid. Beyond all of that, I will give honorable mention to Yao here. So Yao, of course, is basically the mythic legendary, if you will. He's doing damage to 2 people, he's also stealing magic from those people. The damage he's doing is boosted by the amount of life that he has. He leeches life every time you match red gems. He's just kind of this super crazy dude. So in terms of just damage output, he's really high. He converts mana into himself, which is sick. He steals magic and pumps his own magic. Crazy. This dude's nuts. Of all the legendaries that I could potentially argue you should potentially craft, Yao is absolutely at the top of that list. So feel free to jump out there and snag yourself a Yao. Beyond all of that, we also have Divine Protector in the Soulforge. So this weapon is a mixed type based on Divines, so if you wanted to make the most use of this, you'd have to run it with the Priest class. However, Divines are absolutely amazing troops, and the mana it makes is absolutely amazing for pretty much every Divine out there. So Divine Protector, super high value. I will give a quick warning that the weapon Rope Dart is coming out next week. So if you are at all trying to craft yourself a rope dart and you're not super high on all of these resources, I would strongly recommend you give it a week, just pass on the Divine Protector and craft yourself a rope dart. However, you should be able to get these diamonds if your guild is completing the tasks and you're doing your daily dungeons. You should be able to get enough for both of these weapons. However, if you have to pick one or the other, absolutely wait until next week to get yourself a rope dart. So that is all of that fun stuff. But now we get to jump into the super spoiler section! Ba-bow-bow! In the spoilers section, we got ourselves a Mirrored Halls on Tuesday. Mirrored Halls is the newly released delve I'm going to be smashing through again with this team. This team will be in the description. It's a fun way to give yourself a ton of attack and then skull spam the crap at everyone. This was my first level 500, 2500 perfect delve. I'm so proud of it. Looks like this really nasty thing over here, so even though it's a gigantic mirror, use your imagination, but that's the team I'm going to be using to smash on through with this thing. On Wednesday, we get ourselves a little pigeon boy. Pigeon, it's a peace pigeon. It makes sense because this is Whitehelm week, and this is a Whitehelm pet. This is going to be giving you divine bonus, so feel free to jump on in on Wednesday, get yourself some peace pigeon. And then on Thursday, we get ourselves a class event. For what class, you ask? Of course, it's the same thematic thing, it's the Priest. So the Priest class isn't really all that bad actually, so if you want to get some levels in this, it's not the worst. It is the strongest yellow mana generator in the game because it gets bonus yellow here, and then in the talents, it also gets bonus yellow here. So if you get it all the way up to 70, you get yourself 2 bonus yellow, which is sick. If you run a banner, that's also double yellow, you get 4 yellow every single time you match yellow no matter what. It's nuts, it's crazy. Beyond all of that, the class isn't the worst in the world. You have some self-cleanse, you'll get a little bit of healing. Getting it all the way up to 100 doesn't really do all that much, so nothing too exciting there. So feel free, if you get it up to 70, you'll have a good time, and you can use that new Divine Protector weapon to its max. But then, on Friday, what you've all been waiting for, we get ourselves a new mythic, and it looks like this. So this is Shahbanu-Vespera. I'm going to pretend that's the correct pronunciation. So this mythic has kind of gone through a lot of changes. I shouldn't say a lot. It's changed since it was originally put into the system and to the point that it is now. So at this point in time, I think this troop is going to be interesting, but not necessarily busted or crazy. However, playing around with it is really going to yield its value. It is definitely an interesting troop, if nothing else. So this is going to be giving random skill to an ally, so you're going to pick somebody with this thing and it's going to give them just some pump to their skills, not a ton because it's going to be magic divided by 2. However, it's going to then create 9 gems of their mana color, so that's kind of fun. So you can imagine this will probably give something like 15 to 18 stats, maybe 20 on some people's, to a random stat, but then it's going to make 9 of that gem color, some random color. So if it's a yellow-brown troops, you cast this on, it's going to create either 9 yellow or 9 brown, you can't pick it. But then it's going to do that same effect 2 other times for random allies, which seems to imply it could potentially double pick an ally, it could potentially triple pick an ally. And then the mana it's making is going to be random all over the place, the stats it's going to be giving are going to be random all over the place. So this is going to really be an awkward troop to try and use. I think it could be fun, but I don't necessarily know if it's going to be predictably useful. So we're going to have to play with it. I imagine if you're going to try and use this troop to its maximum potential, you are going to want to try and make sure that you're building lineups that are very mana specific. You want to be trying to limit the amount of mana that you're using or share a common color. On Guild Wars, this could theoretically be useful if you put it on a team that's running everyone with yellow mana on it, for instance. The odds of it making yellow mana should be higher. However, it is going to be completely random. Beyond all of that, the traits, we're going to be seeing elementals getting 2 life, who cares? We're going to be seeing immunity to deathmark, that's fine. But then we also have this 30% chance to summon a Djinn when matching 4 or more gems. So not only is this thing a summoner, it's a summoner on 4/5s. So the benefit of this from an offense perspective is that if you're trying to create summons, you don't have to cast a spell to do it, you'll just passively be able to create summons. So that's kind of fun. This makes it like pretty much useless from a defensive point of view. I wouldn't say useless, but you're not going to have the same situation where an Orb Weaver is making a crap ton of spiders while it's your turn and you're doing stuff. It's not going to be summoning anything on your turn. It's only going to be summoning stuff on their turn. So this is going to be a much more tolerable version of summoning as far as PvP is concerned. On your side, it could be theoretically useful. So overall, I think this is an interesting mythic. Do I recommend you go, crazy trying to get it? I mean, I'm gonna go get it and play around with it. I wouldn't say this is the highest priority get, at least at this point in time. It is kind of a fun mythic, but I imagine it is going to be pretty hard to build around. But we'll see. We'll see if we can create something nuts with it. As far as the troop that it creates, it's creating a Djinn. So if we look at Djinn, it kind of just looks like its little sister over here. And this thing is kind of like literally a mini version of Shahbanu over here, where it's just giving life to an ally and then either making mana of their color or giving magic. That's kind of it as far as what it does. So you just can create a mini Shahbanu if you match 4/5s while it's your turn. Interesting mythic, but not necessarily the craziest. But that is everything that's going on this week for you guys. Let's jump on over to the switchy switchers. For the Switch folks, this time around, how's everybody doing? Happy Monday to you guys. I feel like I don't spend enough quality time with my Switch friends over here. But as far as the event this time around, it is going to be a raid boss style. So in the event keys, we're going to be seeing Grosh-Nak troops. Unfortunately, Grosh-Nak troops are kinda Grosh crap, so that's that. There's nothing too crazy in here that you'd potentially want to get. As far as troops that are somewhat useful, Garnock is kind of this orc captain dude, so he'll give all orcs 50% mana, that's kinda whatever. He's used as pretty much the primary gimmick for a lot of troops since he's doing damage to his own troops and then creating mana and then potentially summoning an orc. He's a very decent mana converter, or creator. He's not the worst. I mean, 7 is not a lot, but it does create 2 and 2 versus like a mix. So you will consistently be making 7 red and 7 brown, which is generally the mana type that you want. However, since he's doing true damage to himself, if you're running a class that has barrier on it on browns, for instance, it's basically going to be popping your barrier all the time, which is super annoying. But he does pair up with Gargantuar. It's Gargantuar here. This really ugly looking bat, half orc, half piece of crap with his head split open. Maybe that's hair, who knows. But it's this dude who's just doing damage boosted by enemies and allies that are killed. So this is a really crap mythic, just because the way that you pump it is that you have to either kill lots of people or die a lot, so it's really awkward to use. He does get pumped up every time he takes damage, so this is okay, I guess. But Overall, Gargantuar, kind of bottom of the barrel as far as Mythics goes. Grosh-Nak is okay, but nothing crazy. Unfortunately, Orcs in general aren't that great. However, you know, there's really nothing super crazy in here. So Drake Rider is probably the most useful person in here, who's converting yellows to reds. He also has a second life. When you kill him, he turns into a Drake, so that's okay. So in general, I would say probably save your event keys this week. There's really nothing in here that's all super duper exciting. For the event itself though, for the raid boss, I did create a handful of teams you guys could be using. So the first team would be this one, which is going to be a Mang with a Drake Rider and a Grosh-Nak and a Bargak, which is the new troop, so let's talk about him real quick. He's just doing damage to an enemy boosted by skulls ×2. So this is a little bit awkward because there's not usually going to be a ton of skulls on the board, and if there are a ton of skulls on the board, you probably don't want to be casting a spell. So boost spawn skulls is always kind of awkward. So it's basically just your, you know, run-of-the-mill deal damage to the boss kind of thing. As far as his traits go, nothing really all that crazy either. So as far as just a, you know, event troop goes, he's nothing too crazy, but he will help you get the boss down. This team is basically create mana, and smash the boss and smash the people. So this team is pretty easy to run. The thing with Grosh-Nak though is that he will pop your barriers, as I mentioned before. So when it comes to running this team, you will get the benefit of 50% mana start for these two troops and him himself. However, it's not really going to be that super amazing when it's popping your barrier all the time unless it absolutely loops. The benefit will be, of course, that if you do loop off the 7 brown, for instance, you will at least get your barrier back, but it's a very awkward dynamic. So if that team doesn't seem to fit your fancy, we did make this other team here, which is basically the same idea, and it's using more common troops, but it's using the Mang, the Drake Rider, and the Bargak, but it's also using Warwolf, which is going to get you more red mana out of this, without popping your barrier artificially. So if you feel like using this team, feel free. Otherwise, you can try the other team and just pray that your Grosh-Nak doesn't ruin your life by popping your barrier and getting your hero killed. That's a thing that could happen, but both of those codes will be in the description. As far as the Glory Shop goes, you guys do get access to a very useful person, however, and it is Mr. Fist of Zorn. He's an empowered converter that makes skulls, so that's kind of fun. So he's basically just straight up converting all yellows to skulls and then giving 12 attack to the first ally. So if you've ever seen Web Spinner before, who's just doing a crap ton of damage, this is basically a very cheeky tactic you can run on defense day. For instance, you could just have this person on your team with a Web Spinner, and potentially on turn 1 you just convert a bunch of stuff into skulls and kill the top troop, potentially kill multiple troops, just by having Fist of Zorn and Web Spinner on your team. So that's pretty fun. I would strongly recommend you get this guy all the way up to Mythic if at all possible. You're also getting tons of arcanes by doing it, so why not, right? Might as well do it. In the event shop for this thing, you are going to get access to a Spiked Mace. So Spiked Mace is basically your mixed type for Grosh-Nak allies. This is not all that great though, since there's no really good Orc teams you can build and there is no Orc class you can use, at least not yet. This weapon really doesn't have much, if any, value, so feel free to get it. I always recommend getting the weapons in the event shops, but admittedly this one is not all that exciting. In the Soulforge this time around, you guys have access to at least a couple interesting things. So first and foremost will be Mr. Chad over here, super strong Hulky boy, Zeus incarnate if you will, with his Thunder Javelin of Death and Destruction. He's basically just going to be doing true damage to people, so he's a sniper kind of guy. His boost ratio is actually pretty decent though, so if you have a lot of giants on your team, you're running the Titan class for instance, and you have lots of people barriered, his damage output can be really high. So this boost ratio can actually scale all the way up to, what, 56 extra? If you have everyone barriered and you're running 4 giants, this is going to be doing an extra 56 true damage, so that's kind of sick. But beyond all of that, he's also giving random people barriers on every 4 or 5 match. So just having him passively in your lineup of a team full of giants means you're going to be getting tons of barriers, and whenever you can cast him, he's going to snipe people out. If you do pair him up with Hyndla Frostcrown, his magic will get pumped on top of that. So the amount of damage you can actually do with Jotner when paired with Hyndla is disgusting, and just him by himself is actually pretty disgusting as long as you run him with at least a couple other giants. So Jotner's in there. I actually do like him a lot. I wouldn't necessarily say go crazy trying to craft him if there's other priority things you need, however he is pretty darn solid. Beyond all of that, there's Yasmin's Chosen, so as far as the mana generator goes, she's pretty decent, making 10 green. And then she's just doing this scatter damage thing boosted by people that are entangled. That's kind of weird, you think. How often are people going to be entangled? Well, with her, pretty regularly, because every single time you match green, she's going to be entangling someone random. So her damage output isn't really all that exciting. Like, best case, you're looking at, you know, roughly 100 total scatter damage, so like roughly 25 damage per person, which isn't really all that exciting, but she is making mana and she is entangling people. So as far as damage goes, not the best. As far as mana creation goes, not awful, but this entangling thing is a pretty useful utility thing. She does gain a magic every time an ally casts a spell, so this will go up slowly, but since it's scatter damage, it's not really all that exciting. So Yasmin's and Jotner would be the two that I'd say are worth looking at, the others not so much. However, those are in there for your viewing pleasure. However, we do have an interesting weapon that you should be checking out, which is Earth's Fury. So some of you folks may have gotten this when the game just released. I saw they were releasing all these super cool weapons for you guys right away. This is one of those super cool weapons. So this is basically, if you've seen Mang before and you've used Mang before, this is like Mang, only instead of giving the attack to just your hero, it's also giving it to everyone on your team. It's a lower boost ratio, however, so if the other person had 100 health, for instance, or 100 armor, I should say, then it's going to be giving 25 attack to each person instead of 100 attack to just you. So where this kind of plays in is if you're running a lineup that has someone that does cool things with scaling attack, for instance, so like the Troop War is someone that does more damage when they have more attack. High King Iron Gut, for instance, has a higher % chance to devour when you actually have more attack. So Earth's Fury can kind of pump up those people that are on your team. However, this is also just a way of like creating someone that, like, if you die, it doesn't really matter as much because your whole team will be doing more attack damage. So think of this as kind of like a somewhat safer version of a Mang, if you will, because your entire team will be getting boosted by this. However, to get the most effect out of it, you will have to hit at least like 2 troops to be doing any kind of significant damage out of this thing. So this weapon's out there. It is an alternative to Mang. I strongly recommend you grab one just so you have the variety when it comes to team building. Absolutely super fun and important. That is everything in the regular world for you guys. Let's go see what Mythic you are getting later on in the week. In the spoilers section on Tuesday, we are going to get the Warrens. So the Warrens on Tuesday is pretty annoying. The first fight makes it super dumb. However, this is a team that I use to smash it all the way up to level 500. It's not too complicated, just make sure you account for the tricksters in this thing. If you get swapped, let them swap you again, otherwise just kill them fast enough that it doesn't matter. But that's the team that I use, code in the description as always. As far as the pets, we get ourselves Mr. Balboa himself. It is Rocky. So Rocky's out there. He's basically a brown buff kind of pet. He just does, you know, brown troops. So if you have a team lineup of all brown people, Rocky's going to help you get a little more extra oomph out of that. So that's on Wednesday. Feel free to jump on in and do that. On Thursday, you guys are getting a class event, and it is for the Mechanist. Mechanist isn't the worst class on the planet. It is getting 50% mana start. It can get a barrier at the start. It does have access to banishment, which is useful for dispelling all the enemies on 4/5s. As far as its traits, it's going to get 50% mana start for all mechs. So that's kind of fun. This class is basically like, if you are running mechs very, very specifically, it isn't the worst thing in the world. However, beyond all of that, it's kind of missing some other things. So, you know, it's out there. Feel free to jump in and get it. But that's going to be for Thursday. But then on Friday, it's new Mythic time. New Mythic time! The new Mythic this time around is Tianyi for you guys. So he's this crazy monkey dude. And basically what he's doing is splash damage, and then everyone that gets hit by that splash, so the person you hit and the 2 people next to them, you know, above and below, are all going to get stunned. And it does 2 times damage if your attack is greater. He does have decent base attack, so more than likely your attack will be greater as long as you're fighting level, like, content that's about the same as you. And then, you know, for fun, he just makes a bunch of monkey disciples. Just because, I guess? So damage output isn't really the best on the planet. The stunning effect is pretty decent. As far as what else he does steal 1 magic from the first enemy at the start of return. This is a very, very slow method of gaining magic. If this was like every 4/5 or something, this would be somewhat more interesting. However, as it stands right now, basically all of his traits are pretty bad. Jinx is okay having enemy gem mastery, so they'll surge a little less often when you have them on your team. Agile is weird because you're pretty much never going to run him in the first slot, so that's, you know, awkward. So overall, he's not the best mythic, admittedly. I have him rated pretty low, but he's new, he's flashy, he's exciting. So, you know, on Friday, make sure you got your keys ready if you're going to be hunting for that hot new mythic that's out there. But that's everything for you guys. Let's take it to the outro. And that is everything for everybody. So, enjoy yourself this week. Everyone save up all your keys for the mythics at the end of the week. If you're on the PC mobile side, make sure you save up for that rope dart next week, because I know a lot of folks have been waiting for that on, you know, bated breath, if you will. However, that is everything. Make sure you catch me on Twitch, as always, on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays. Send me a follow over there, because you love me, and I love you. But that's all for this week. I will catch you in the next one.